In this time, I remember this quote by Antonio Gramsci. The quote goes by, "The old world is dying, and the new world struggles to be born, and now is the time for monsters." Right. So I think this quote, uh, in it's a very interesting quote. I feel like it's something that I kind of realize every day for in my own life, but all around me, and especially when it comes to the world, in terms of technology and what's been happening. I feel like this quote, says a lot of goes a lot of way to say what's happening now, right? And it's very important to understand, what the core principle of crypto is, and and the good part of the whole year, even though it's been, like up and down, and this happened before, right? Like markets starts reacting, and markets start going up, and suddenly it attracts all kind of actors, right? Like you cannot say no to anyone, like you cannot be like, yeah, you cannot um, you cannot go ahead and look at someone and say, yeah, you might be a bad actor, so I will not allow you to exist, right? So it's very hard to preempt, things, but usually market cycles and how these things work. It's not just about crypto, but everything in the world, right? Like, so it kind of, say 10 years ago, when crypto was at the infancy, I felt like there were maybe 10,000, 20,000 people in all who'd be excited about crypto, and that world was very different. But today, if you look at the world, I think it's millions of people. And what I feel has happened is, when new people come into the industry, they don't know what to do, right? And they look up to, media. They look up to, influencers. They look up to things which they can also, probably replicate people's success, in terms of, say, making money or something. But but I think what's very important is to exercise skepticism, completely. When I was thinking about crypto and the image and everything, what I really thought was, it is important to understand that crypto is more of a technology, and the purpose of this technology is to enable self-sovereignty, right? Like, how do I, it's a tool for an individual more than anything, right? And once it becomes a tool for an individual, it can also enable coordination among human beings. And what we see happening is a perversion of that, like it's a perversion of that. And I think this kind of a period, when it slowly dies out, you would really find interesting and more, non-financial side of this technology. And I think that's where, the importance, the um, the power of this whole technology lies. So this time I would again, like, like push people to think about self custody, and think about, if you're involving yourself into crypto, it's very important to not think about crypto as a monolith. And I think that's something that's going to, come up the next year, when people start thinking about crypto not as a monolith, but each crypto as something very unique and different, and with different intentions and different people behind it. But it's important to understand, when you're involved in any crypto system, to see where the central point of failures could be. What excites me a lot about what's been happening around NFTs, and like, this whole year of so many conversations that's been going around on NFTs. Again, it's not the financial part, like, I understand, like, NFT, the market has, like, exploded, and it's come down, etc. But market cycles are like that. But fundamentally, to understand where the value is, value for NFTs. I believe that it like the whole idea of what crypto would do to you, where the whole point was self-sovereignty. I think with NFTs, the point is, having data sovereignty. And when I talk about this today, we have only seen primitive. When you see JPEGs on the internet today being sold as NFTs, I think it's a primitive form of what NFTs could be. NFTs, I think, are the tool which are going to enable us to free ourselves from the clutches of today's data networks. And 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 we have become more and more, as a society, we've become more and more digital. And I think we have to take a step back and think about ourselves, and think about the kind of data we are generating today, and who's favoring us or who's helping us store it, right? And I call this idea being data conscious, right? And and by being the idea of being data conscious is to decloud yourself. Think about like today's centralized cloud platforms, and think about what kind of data you are generating, right? Like if you listen to a Spotify playlist, and you're clicking on a heart button, you are generating data, right? When you're going on Twitter, even when scrolling up, you are generating data. And all this data, and when you're taking 10 pictures, like instead of like one, you're generating data and putting all this like it's all, the cloud is the garbage disposed. I think we have to change our patterns. We have to think about what data is generating and how this is being saved. I think that behavior was much better than what we are doing today, right? Because it's become easier for us to generate data and store it somewhere. But actually what we have lost in the process is sovereignty. When you look at what's happening in crypto, what it's very interesting that if you look at it, and we can learn something from it. And I think whatever is happening today in terms of custodying funds, or custodying like crypto with someone else, the same thing could happen with data tomorrow, right? And that is where I think the future lies. It's a non-monolithic world, or in simple terms, it's a multi-chain world, where I think not it's not just there'll be 1,000 chains. No, I think every individual could have a chain. Every individual can have 10 chains. It could sound crazy today, but I think that's where we are heading to. All this that's happening, and sometimes I feel bad that like when you look at things, you do see that there are risks in it, but sometimes it's not very simple to be vocal about it. And that's where individuals have to be absolutely skeptical. Even if tomorrow, say, regulations become stronger, right? And say countries like have regulations which would say slow down some of these things that are going on. I think still, what would save us is understanding our own responsibility in handling crypto, and not necessarily a government regulation. And that is why I have this I have I I I I kind of have both opinions when it comes to regulations, because I feel like even if you regulate this industry, right? Say something like an exchange, or something, some custodian. These things are already regulated. The problem is when you look at these entities and think, yeah, like these are regulated entities, and thereby I'm going to trust them. And that is where the risk is, right? Because companies actually are designed in a way to limit liabilities to the people who are involved inside the company, and not necessarily uh, say maximize what the customers are like are there for. And so in that, even in that scenario, it's thereby important to understand that self custody and your taking responsibility of your own crypto on your own hands, it's even more important than anything else. One more important thing I wanted to suggest and into the next year was, there are few people I think I look up to in the industry. And I thought, when there is so much noise, so usually what happens when an industry slowly expands is that, early people who are say there'll be people who are really genuine, who'd suggest and who'd teach other people on how to use something, right? And slowly, as the industry grows, they, usually, other people take those positions, and newer people take those positions, and not all these people who suggest something to someone, or to the internet, not necessarily have the best of the motives, right? Because everyone is driven by their own self-interest also. So it's important to understand, some of these people, like say Andreas Antonopoulos, who was very important and almost responsible for why I got into the crypto industry back in 2013. He was one of the few people who I would look up to. And if you look at his track record, it's important that, you create a repository of knowledge without necessarily exploiting the people who trusted you, right? And I think Andreas Antonopoulos comes to mind. And in the same way, Eric Horis, who has been in the industry since 2011, he's been such a great inspiration. He has done many ventures, but is someone to look up to, and someone we could use as a good signal when it comes to navigating this noise that is the industry today. There is also Jesse from Kraken, who's the founder of the Kraken, the exchange. Even though I necessarily don't recommend crypto exchanges, what I think is very interesting about Kraken and Jesse is that he has always recommended, he's the person who tells that exchanges holding crypto is a liability, and there is no money to be made on that. It's just a risk that they're holding. And I think that's a very important thing. And I think these kind of people are very important to look up to, at these times. So I think, overall, it's been a it's been a very tumultuous year. But I think the fundamental of crypto, never, like, until today, Bitcoin has never had a downtime. You know, cryptography has never been broken. You know, what's broken, or what's happening is the same human corruption that we see in other industries, also affecting this industry. And in this time, it's very important to remember that crypto was the antidote to human corruption. And in that way, we have to, if we take responsibility of our crypto, I'm sure that the industry, the market would go up, would go down, but make sure that we personally don't get wiped out, or get you know like step on a mine. So if we could do that, I think this will also pass, and we'll get into a great future.